Hello, everyone, and welcome to How to Attract Your Club's Demographic. We're here to specifically help with drawing people in like really amazing magnets and helping them stick to us once they're here. So both membership growth and retention will be covered here, but the topics we'll be covering will go far beyond just Toastmasters. These are fundamental leadership skills that apply across the board when you're dealing with any organization that has people in it, which is every organization. We want to grow, that we want to include people in and be able to find direction and vision forward. We have a lot of really insightful people here in the room, and there's going to be a lot of really awesome conversation throughout. This is a very interactive workshop with minimal presentation as a part of it, but a lot of interaction, which will be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it. Oops, I opened the wrong file over here. I just realized I need to pull open. There it is. Thank you, Mary. I need to pull this down here real quick because I'm going to be using that later on. So I'm being a bit technical over here. Okay. In fact, actually, while I'm doing Kyle, could I ask you to do me the outstanding favor of being a co-host so you can help me out a little bit with some of this stuff? I'll be able to manage the breakout rooms and whatnot, but just having somebody else other than myself as host would be excellent.
Make me a co-host.
Fantastic. I appreciate it.
Tell me what you want me to do.
If you can keep an eye on people, muting and unmuting and responding in chat and that kind of stuff as just kind of wingman, that would be awesome.
Okay. And I just got a text from somebody saying they wanted to join tonight's meeting, but couldn't find the link. So I'm sending it to them.
Okay, thank you. I did send it out. It was at a slightly odd time, a bit earlier than usual, but it did have the Zoom link in it. So if they weren't registered, they might not have gotten it, or it might just be Eventbrite being odd, or if they were late registrant. So much obliged for that, Kyle. It's over here, so I have that available. My Windows operator. Okay, so first, what we're going to have tonight is a presentation by myself introducing the topic a little bit, some of the challenges that we're facing as far as demographics go. And then we're going to have I don't know if this will be a first for Sound Advice or not, but we're having table topics, sort of. It'll be a slight riff on table topics. It'll be a little bit different. It'll be a discussion around a table with topics. So table topics discussion. And I'll be coordinating that. And then we're going to have our leadership development discussion with Mary Morrison, who's going to have some small presentation and then some breakouts with assignments for us to discuss and explore. And then we can have a whiteboard discussion after that for applying the strategies we've just learned into a tactical approach for how to make this happen and reach out on a more tactical level. And then we're going to have a break, and then we're going to go into our evaluation portion of our meeting. So that is the overall direction of the agenda. And I will, looking at the time, get started with my presentation. My apologies for being multiple excessive hats tonight, but sometimes this is how things work out. So, all right, my speech is going to be entitled Emotional Demographics, and I just realized, is our timer also not here? We do not have a timer.
I can time you.
I would appreciate that, Kyle.
What's your timing?
This will be a 10 to 12 minute speech.
Okay.
So green, yellow, and red. Today has been a Toastmasters filled day. I just Toastmastered another meeting just prior to this one. And so the agendas are blurring together in my head. All right. My speech is entitled Emotional Demographics, and it'll be focusing on going deeper into what it means to have a target market audience. Please welcome myself. Hi. I like looking at statistics and stats and information about all kinds of things and figuring out insights that can be drawn about them, figuring out the truth of things, the facts about the world. But the truth is that there are certain things that are easier to measure and therefore get measured more often and tend to color our perception of reality in an undue measure. There are things that have more weight, that have more importance in reality and how we interact with it than are the ones that we typically see in a stats list. One example of this is when we think about demographics. When I look at a census survey or any kind of study that includes demographics in order to be able to have control groups or figure out what is actually being correlated with what, there are almost always the same kinds of questions that define demographics: skin color, ethnicity, gender, age, income, location. All of these kinds of things always crop up. And it makes sense. One, they're straightforward, relatively easy to measure. They fit in a small box on the survey chart, and they have significant impact on how we do things, how we live. They're not insignificant factors in who we are. And there are wildly different applications of them depending on context. That is important to control for when studying things. But I recently encountered a problem with this particular instinctive definition for demographics. Once a week here in Fargo, there is a startup brew event. It's in the morning, and it's an amazing group of entrepreneurs who come together to network, and they present what they're starting, what they're doing, and ask questions and see how the community can help them. It is a beautiful, amazing event. And there were these two ladies who had just started their very first businesses, and they were excited, they were passionate, they had a really great value offering, they were amazing people, and they talked about their journey and their struggles and figuring things out. And then as I was listening to them, I was like, I'm really curious because I haven't heard them say anything about their target market audience or their demographic or their niche. They have their service that they're offering and no way to focus that in on a particular listener or a hearer or a audience. So I raised my hand and I said, so what in this inclusive community that you're wanting to build around this product, what is the culture that you want to see? What are the distinctives of a culture of the people that are going to rally around the community that is formed by your product or your service? And the gals are like, well, we have old people, we have young people, we've got all these different people, and like started listing off, like she doesn't want to exclude anybody based off of skin color, ethnicity, gender, age, or income. She doesn't want to kick anybody out. She wants to include all these people, and like, it's great for everybody. I'm like, This is a problem in entrepreneurship. This is a death knell. But I was pondering, like, but she's right, though, because the kind of service she offered doesn't really focus well on a particular demographic on those measures. She shouldn't exclude anybody on those factors. But that was all she could see when she thought of demographics and distinguishing herself. Those were the matrix she was thinking about. And I realized that this is a very common problem. This is an issue that people run into, and I've seen it in Toastmasters clubs, I've seen it in startup companies, I've seen it all over the place where people think of demographics in these very surface level terms. Because we don't want to exclude anyone based off of gender or age or any of these things. So we get stymied. We can't find our unique client avatar until we change how we look at demographics and look deeper. And this problem is even more exacerbated nowadays, as we were talking about earlier before the meeting, about how everybody's online now. And before, we could define ourselves by our location. That was a valid demographic to distinguish ourselves by. We can't at all distinguish ourselves based off of location anymore. Time zone, yes, you need to put your time zone in there. Alexandra was saying earlier, vital information. That's time zone needs to be front and center, so people know. But people are coming from around the world. We have people who are like, oh, that's a very convenient evening time zone. I'm going to attend in my morning in South Korea. This happens all the time, and so this is not something that excludes people. It's a way to include people, which doesn't solve our demographic problem. What really needs to be understood to be able to solve this fundamental lack of awareness of the scope that we can use to distinguish ourselves is that we must understand that we are emotional creatures. We like to think we're rational. We like to plan things out and make decisions in a very logical and Vulcan way. We like to try to convince ourselves that when we do things, we're doing them for logical, rational, sane reasons. This is almost never the case. If you've spent any time in sales, you know it is the story, it is the relationship, it is the emotional connection that sells somebody, not the specific numbers or the facts or the details of whatever you're offering or what the benefits they'll get out of it. They get sold on the story of where they will be after they have received the product. They have an emotional attachment to that. They develop a connection of trust with you, and based on that, they connect with your product as well. So when we're looking for a Toastmasters group, yes, we're looking for the basics, timeliness, friendliness, quality evaluations. We don't want to join a club that is flunking out on those kinds of things. But what really makes us join is not because of those things. It's because we have felt a sense of belonging. This is my tribe. These are my people. I resonate with them. These are my friends. You walk in the door, somebody comes up to you, you strike up a conversation with them, and now you want to go to that person's club because you have a friendship with them. There's a common culture there that you feel at home with, that you feel safe to be yourself at. This is your demographic. That almost indescribable sense of resonance, emotional connection. And I say almost indescribable because it is difficult to describe. It takes effort. It takes time to cultivate it. But if it was impossible to describe, I wouldn't be doing a speech right now. It would be a hopeless venture. But it is possible. It is possible to go deeper and think beyond mundane things like how much money we make or what color our skin is or whether we have a beard or not. These are not the things that really define a culture, a community, a people. Instead, there are a whole host of emotional qualities, of interests, of almost spiritual aesthetics that you can distinguish, create a fingerprint of an experience that makes the difference. Some clubs I've been in have rules about no sex, religion, or politics in any of the topics discussed. It's a reasonable rule. They know what happens when people get unruly with such topics. And we've had to clap people off the stage when they broke that rule. Then I was at other clubs where they don't have that rule. And people did talk about those topics very well. There was a community that supported a mutual respect at such a high level that people were able to bring very hot button topics like politics. I bring this up. There was a speech, a 20-minute speech by a white atheist about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And he was evaluated by a Muslim. and a Jewish guy shook his hand afterwards and said it was an amazing speech. It could have gone wrong in so many ways, but it was an amazing speech, and the club culture supported it because they had defined the experience. This is who we are. This is how we do things. And people knew it, and they rose to that level of maturity, of respect, of congruency. In some kinds of clubs, certain jokes are perfectly acceptable, not in others. Some clubs, formal tie affairs, very solemn, very, very formal. And then you've got nerdmasters. We goof out all the time because that's part of our culture. Formal structure of how you organize the meeting versus a very casual as-you-go kind of affair. Certain topics can be more highly praised than others. Like, yes, we can talk about anything, but if you talk about something relevant to spiritual growth or emotional stories from your past, my home club, Harbor Club, and now jointly meeting with Northwest Baseball Speaking, you're going to get a lot more support, more enthusiasm when you go deeper into spiritual things, because that's what we're there about creating a safe place for emotional expression. So yeah, we can talk about anything, but those things are the ones I kind of save those particular speeches for, because I know they'll appreciate it, because that supports their culture. Some clubs are very accomplishment focused. We're getting this DCP done. Every single officer is going to go to every single officer training. We're going to get 10 out of 10 goals with some extra to spare. We're going to get, a DTM every single year for every member. I mean, you can go insane with that kind of direction. And then you have people who are just very easygoing. We're going at our own pace. What's a DCP? And neither is wrong. They're different, and it's a whole spectrum in between. But the thing is that you need to know who you are, who your club is as a group, what you're going to sacrifice for when you're making choices about marketing. Because if you are having excessive inclusion, that means you're not speaking to anyone. If you always talked to a room instead of to an individual, you would never connect with anybody. And that's what we're doing. We're talking to everybody. For a small club, this can seem suicidal almost, and you're desperate for anyone to join. But it's imperative that we choose an emotional experience that we're focusing on. So you can see these deeper alignments and create this deeper resonance that shapes identity and belonging. Because at our heart, we're more than the color of our skin or our gender, or whether or not we have a beard. We're emotional creatures. We're irrational. And we like to hang around people who are like us. Thank you. All right, thank you so much, Kyle. Next up, we have table topics in a bit of a twist. Oh, Rosanna did make it. Excellent. Judy, if you want to correspond with Rosanna, maybe you can balance out some of that evaluation load with her possibly. But next up, we have table topics. And the goal for this discussion is to kind of put into practice a little bit of what I was just talking about, finding the emotional experience that you had with your club. So your prompt, I want to go all around, see if we include as many people here as possible in our time here, to tell a table topic, a 1 to 2 minute tale, of an emotional experience with your club that was defining for you. Who would like to go first? I see the wheels turning. Karen. There you go. Have at it.
Thank you, James. My first experience with Toastmasters here was going to the Laugh Out Loud event they had in 2019. And the reason we went to that is we had just come to the Sequim area, and we didn't know anybody. And we'd been through a slightly depressing experience prior to getting here. And we wanted to laugh. And we laughed a lot. We were greeted with enthusiasm and smiles. Many of you know ME. I mean, that face, just, you know, you walk into it and you just feel good. Kyle's hearty laugh and welcoming demeanor. Who could not experience the feeling of welcome and humor? And it just felt so good after being in a bad experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's beautiful. I want to call it a particular piece from that. When you're telling the story of your brand, in a sense, your marketing identity, it's a story of a from an experience to another experience. Like, you are at this place that you don't want to be, and you want to be at a new place. And that's exactly the kind of story you told. You wanted to feel good. You wanted to laugh. You wanted to smile. And that is a beautiful, beautiful description of an emotional experience that really creates that sense of belonging. So, beautiful example, perfect. Who would also like to share an emotional experience that shaped or defined their encounter with Toastmasters? Sandra.
This was a recent experience, not a first experience, but it was so pivotal in my Toastmasters experience. I had put together a lengthy presentation for a TLI workshop, and I practiced it at a couple of clubs, including an international 17-country club. Not a country club, but a club. I had one gal who, number one, liked what I said, and number two, spent after the meeting 2.5 hours with me to help me perfect that presentation. And now she's the ambassador of that methodology over in Ireland. Getting that level of feedback by someone who's just willing to give it and be honest about it. I like to say that Toastmasters is a support group. We have to be able to trust each other and to trust that we will get something out of it and that the feedback we get is honest. And I personally look for clubs where evaluations do not include any of the silly perfunctories that waste a minute of the evaluator's time. I want them to get to the point. You don't have to worry about hurting my feelings, because I'm here to fall on my face so that when I get in front of someone and ask them to take my advice, give me money, support my project, I am perfect. And so evaluations to me, and the Claire over in Ireland completely hooked me into Toastmasters for the rest of my life. Thank you.
So awesome. Thank you so much, Sandra. Yeah, that you really highlighted that essential component. In fact, I wouldn't even call it a component. I think in many ways, trust is community. I could say it that strongly. That the fundamental building blocks of relationships, of connection, of community, of culture are exchanges of trust. Exchanges of vulnerability that develop trust, that weave everybody together in unique, special ways. And if you don't have that, you don't have anything. Absolutely critical. Thank you so much, Sandra. Who would also like to share an encounter that was emotional and transformative for them? Kyle.
this experience was transformative in my relationship with Toastmasters. I had joined my club, which was Golden Bell Toastmasters in downtown Bellevue. And I had been going for a few months, and I'd done 3 speeches, and, I got evaluated and go, oh, that was nice, And 4th speech in the manual, if I remember correctly, is the vocal variety exercise. And this is the old competent communicator manual. Actually, it's the old CTM manual, even before that. And I decided to do something really outside my comfort zone. I grew up, I'm a New England Lutheran. And that means, at church, you sit there and you're quiet and you listen and you sing when you're told and you sit down when you're told, and there's no hallelujahs and there's no jumping around. There's no, you're not very vociferous. And when the minister says you're done, you shuffle out. And I grew up kind of inhibited, and and one of the reasons I joined Toastmasters was to learn to be funny and to learn to be inspiring. And I forgot to time myself. And anyway, I decided to do something scary for this vocal variety thing. And I was going to talk about creating a success team. And without really thinking about it, I went in and I mimicked Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. I hadn't actually planned that, but I did mimic it. And I decided to do a Southern Baptist preacher style voice. I have a dream, ladies and gentlemen. I have a dream. Can I have an amen? And when no one said anything, I said, can I have an amen? Until somebody said it. And, and I have a dream, and my dream is to create a team. And, and after that, I kind of ramped down into talking about what a success team is and why one might do that. The club loved it. I went in terrified that this was going to be rejected, hated. No, that's too over the top. You can't. No, they loved it. And every time I got bigger, every time I got louder, every time I got broader, people just loved it more. And it taught me to, take the brakes off my speaking, and it taught me to use Toastmasters as a laboratory. I like to say, getting my mad scientist on, try something nuts and see how it works. And that changed my relationship with Toastmasters.
That is awesome, Kyle. Yeah, that can be a fundamentally transformative experience across an entire life. I mean, you talk about in WOW meetings and how to market your club about what we're really marketing is not communication or leadership, it's confidence. And that kind of response to stepping outside of your comfort zone, of doing something bigger than you've ever thought before, and that terror connected with that, and then it being accepted, is such an empowering thing that transforms who we are in many ways. And that's a really beautiful experience. Absolutely fantastic. All right, anybody has anything else coming to mind of an experience? And it can also shift it, where you can go somewhere and you find out that it's not that they did anything wrong, but it was an emotional experience that told you this is not the place for me. Even if it wasn't necessarily they're doing anything wrong or anything bad, but it did distinguish. He's like, this is not my place.
How many of those do you want?
A few examples would suffice. Does anybody have any coming to mind who hasn't spoken yet?
I'm just going to say,
Go ahead.
I'm out doing a table topics on it. My pet peeve is roles that aren't assigned when the meeting begins.
Mm.
To me, that just shows lack of teamwork, management, organization, and it just, you're wasting my time.
Mm. Yep. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. All right. Anyone else? Any particularly emotional experiences that helps define something? Liz, it's great to have you. Have at it.
Thank you. I had an experience that almost made me quit Toastmasters. I had prepared a speech for a project. It was where you research and report on what you researched. And I have a background of working with scientists, with USGS and with NOAA fisheries. And the speech I gave was on climate change. And I had a lot of citations, and actually it was called Seeing is Believing. So I had a little film at the end, and I had pictures, and I was really proud of this speech, and I thought I gave it really well. My evaluator, instead of evaluating the speech itself, evaluated the content based on his opinions and just tore it apart. And afterwards, I thanked him, but I fumed till the end of that meeting. And then I went out to my car and I thought, I'm not coming back. And I left there and I got a speeding ticket. I went down a road that I'd never went down before, and it was foggy. I just remember this day so well. It was foggy and it had one of those cameras, and I didn't see the school sign, and the light went off, and 2 weeks later I get this $150 speeding ticket in a school zone. But I got home. Oh, I also stopped. I got some coffee and I got an almond croissant and thought about it. And I realized this person wasn't there all the time. And it was just one person. It was his opinion. And no one else had those kind of comments about my speech. So I decided, rather than let him defeat me, I was going back and head on with it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz. That is indeed a vivid memory. But I can understand why. I always say evaluations are the heart and soul of Toastmasters. And when there are such a fundamental rule, in a sense, of a good evaluation, where it's the presentation, not the content, when that's broken, you're breaking the heart of Toastmasters. And so I can see how that would endanger your trust with the actual program itself, and how important that would be. I'm really glad that you were able to set that one person aside and be able to continue engage with Toastmasters as a whole and still be here. So that is awesome. Do we have one more? We have time for one more. Judy.
As Liz was speaking, it reminded me of an incident that made me, for a few fleeting moments, think about leading Toastmasters. I was to be a speaker at a meeting, and the day before, maybe the morning of, I got very sick. I can't remember now, it was flu symptoms, upper respiratory something, but I was very sick. So I emailed that I couldn't speak. And there's these flurries of emails. Who's going to be our speaker for the meeting? And it was like nobody cared about me being sick. They just wanted their speaker. I did get over it, because I think at some point someone did step back and say, I hope you're feeling better. And I've done that too. I've been focused on the goal and not thinking about the person who really was in a bind and couldn't help fill this goal. So I thought, well, I can forgive them. But it really did bother me for a while. And it is something for all of us to think about, that we do become friends. We develop very deep connections in Toastmasters. It's a major reason that many of us stay. So just to remember the person as well as filling our Toastmaster goals. Thanks.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Judy. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, all right. We are concluding this particular section of the meeting as a bit unorthodox, but in certain contexts, I like unorthodoxy, despite being Eastern Orthodox. Next up, we have Mary Morrison, one of our revered members with a tremendous amount of experience and acumen, and being able to give advice and clarity in how to build communities and teams successfully, all the way through Toastmasters, all the way up. I can't remember what your highest attainment is, Mary. Help me out here. What is your highest attainment in Toastmasters International?
I was international director.
Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't want to misspeak, but I thought you had been. All right, please take it away, Mary, with your workshop.
Perfecting your pitch.
Yes.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone, because you gave such a wonderful context for what I'm going to talk about. I have a couple of caveats. I am not a marketing person. What I share with you today doesn't come from a specific background in marketing, but it does come from 20 plus years in Toastmasters, working with many different clubs to help them find their market, asking them what makes them unique, helping them figure it out. And I've done this in many different roles. I honestly, public relations manager in a club, or vice president education, or public relations, sorry, it's like my least favorite role. But I love membership so much that I revere the vice president public relations, because without them, membership doesn't do a very good job. It's almost impossible to do membership. And since I like membership so much, I really recognize the need for some good public relations. And public relations itself can't just rely on that vice president. That vice president needs everyone in the club to understand what makes that club a wow experience for their members. What I loved about your stories was they were uniquely you. And if you asked members in your club the same question, you would probably begin to see some themes that would actually help you understand what made the emotional connection in your club. And it could be 2 or 3 different things for your club, but all of those become your building block for a pitch for your club that you can use in many different ways. And when James said we're going to brainstorm at the end, what we're going to do is brainstorm some very practical ways that you and your clubs can work to make all of the information you've heard tonight come true. I have been a member of quite a few clubs over my years in Toastmasters. My home club for 20 years was appropriately titled Tacoma Bureaucrats. And I say appropriate because we work for city government. Now, it didn't mean that we were all actually bureaucrats, although as an employee of the city of Tacoma, I did have to claim I was a bureaucrat often. It didn't mean we were particularly stilted. But what it did mean is if you had to make a presentation to any governing body within our government, we could help you with that. We could help prepare you for organizing your thoughts and answering the kinds of questions that elected bodies may have or appointed bodies may have of you. And that became a really important driver for me as I went out, both for me personally and as I went out and pitched to people who worked for the city to see if they would be interested in being part of that club. It didn't mean it was always my breakthrough moments, as James has described, similar to Kyle. My breakthrough actually came when I was coaching a club. And this club was so hungry for members that they were like a swarm of insects if a guest arrived. Join us, join us, join us. We're so hungry for some fresh blood, they even said. I thought they were like a swarm of mosquitoes, I guess is what I'm describing. But they knew how to run a meeting. These people knew exactly how to do everything so profoundly well that it only took 3 of them, and they would have Toastmasters, speakers, evaluators, grammarians, timers, and they did their job really well. They had the basics down. What did I really learn from that? I learned how to find my true speaking voice. They had a meeting theme. They did themes really well, called Soapbox. They brought a soapbox for you to stand on. If you're not familiar with the concept of soapbox, it's when you get to stand. It's an old-fashioned a box that you literally used to haul soap in, and people would put it in the town square, and they would stand on it, and they would espouse passionately about something, trying to get everyone involved in whatever their passion was. Well, this club was called Town Criers, and a soapbox was a perfect meeting theme for them. And I have been evaluated time after time after time after time on my lack of variety in vocal. I couldn't seem to get a pitch right. I couldn't seem to express myself well. I couldn't seem to bring any passion to it. Well, I was a bureaucrat. Of course, I wasn't going to bring a lot of passion to it. But I knew in speaking to people, I really did have to express more of myself and not be quite so reserved. Much to my shock, when I got up on that soapbox, I really felt like a different person. I am so glad a good friend of mine was there that day to witness it, because she often reminds me of the day I found my voice in Toastmasters. Now, Town Criers could use that as a pitch. That's my personal story about Town Criers, how I really found a way to express myself. That's not the direction they took. They went on to actually change their name to Wake Up for Wealth. Do you know today it's one of the strongest clubs in this district? And they have gained way beyond the 3 or 4 members that were there a few years ago, to being distinguished, but more importantly, to having a lot of new members join because they found their true voice. So we're going to spend some time on that this evening, helping you think through, take that story that you have in you, see what the themes might be, because we're going to work in some small groups. I've got some questions prepared for you. Honestly, you're doing most of the work tonight of these workshops, which is very true for almost any workshop I do. So I have some direction for you, but I want you to, before we get into that, just think for a minute. I'm going to just give you some names of some clubs, and imagine what the appeal to them might be. If you were a club that's name was Keynoters, what do you think that would be? What's its appeal? Keynoters.
Being able to give longer speeches.
Longer speeches, right. So if you were looking for that, right, you might look for that. All right. Night owls. What would be the appeal or the benefit or a selling pitch for night owls?
Odd shifts.
Long shifts, the evening shifts.
Either that or your owl fanciers.
It could be your birds, your avians. That's right. It could be. Yep. And my final one, cosmic design. What if your club name was Cosmic Design?
Sounds very science.
California.
You might live in California. Yeah. The point of this was, in one sense, when you look at the names of clubs around the world, and this is true around the world, truly, if you scroll through the list of clubs that are on the leadership or on the list of clubs for Toastmasters, and I looked today and there's about 14,000 clubs in the world, you can find some pretty descriptive and quirky names. In one sense, Toastmasters is just a huge tribe of nerds.
Yeah.
And if you take yourself too seriously and not really willing to expose yourself to being a bit vulnerable, Toastmasters is probably not going to be the place for you. We're all looking for something. And we're all happy we have found each other. And it doesn't mean that any specific club, I have some experience where I could tell you like, oh, I'm never going back to that again. Please save me from that group. Because you find some things that, you know, you do want. Some people loved the structure of Tacoma bureaucrats. And then when we had guests in, some of them found we were so incredibly formal that they didn't like the way that we use the titles. Sandra mentioned she doesn't like roles being filled, or she wants them to be filled way in advance because it shows her something about the club that feels a need for her. Others find that delightful. Good, this is a club that's relaxed enough that if I need to take a week off and call in, they'll still need me the next week. Just something for everyone. So our job tonight, we're going to take you through a multi-step process. And I think James has a worksheet to share. So should I just go through the instructions, or do you have it so that we could show it to people while I'm kind of chatting it through the instructions form? Excellent. Thank you. So imagine this, these are our steps. You have just heard that your club won an award for its wow factor. And Margaret Page, who is this year's international president, is presenting you an award. What do you think she could say about your club? And you would, by the way, be feeding her this information. She won't have known it just by reading what your title is. And an example I might give you is Ready Talkers is a club known for its quick thinkers. They have debates. They are a resource for a high school and college youth looking to improve their logic and impromptu thinking skills. Now, Ready Talkers, that may not have been their initial purpose, but as they have gone through this time where they've had to have more appeal to people, more appeal to a group of people at an emotional level, this might be what they are now known for. So I want you, step one, think, and this is going to be in your small groups in the breakout rooms. So you're going to have there's going to be 3 of you. There might be 4 in one group, or I'm not sure how the numbers are exactly working out. But individually, think about what makes your club that wow experience for you and what you might have heard from guests and members. You've heard a couple of stories tonight. This, a club that uses humor really well, a club that's incredibly supportive, a club that pays so much attention to your needs, and they evaluate you so wonderfully that you feel that that's it for you. So you want you to take that excitement, step 2. You think about that, and think, if you have a piece of paper, 3 sentences. You might want to do this quietly for a minute, just to give yourself a chance to write it out. Maybe you're thinking of it right now as we're talking. Step 2, take that excitement feeling and make it that message. Write it out then at that point. Once you've finished, you're going to take turns sharing that. So this would basically be your initial club pitch. Hey, I'm a member of Bee Gees, meaningless to you until I say Bee Gees, boldly growing Toastmasters. In Bee Gees, we want to make sure that we support every member by paying attention to what your goals are and helping you at every meeting achieve them. That's a pitch I use as vice president of membership for Bee Gees, whose name used to be Bee Gees Bio Business Examiner Engineers. Meaningless, just used our initials, Bee Gees, until we switched a few years ago to Boldly Growing. So you take turn once you've finished writing out your few sentences or crafting them in your mind, sharing it with the other 2 people. And as you finish, you're going to have a chance to hear some feedback and provide some feedback to each other. Feedback might be, what would draw you to that club based on what you've just heard? What are the benefits you hear in that message? Again, piece of paper and a pencil might help you as you're going through this. Then you're going to get a chance to take that feedback you've just heard and incorporate it as you refine your message and share the refined message. So if I'm in a room, I'm just going to go down the screen. I have no idea whether this is true or not, but say it's me, James, and Judy in a room together. James gives his pitch for a club. Think of one club that you're part of. James is going to give his pitch, and then Judy and I give him some feedback. He's going to take a minute to be able to craft that and then come back and we'll say, oh, okay, that worked well. Then repeat it. Judy does hers, then I do mine. So you kind of get yourself through a little bit of it, get some immediate feedback, put it to use, go off with at least then 2 versions of what you think your pitch is. You now then through step 5, step 6, you go to, this is what James was talking about really. How do you know who your potential audience is if you don't know who you are? So you've kind of identified who you are. Now, who would benefit from that? From what you've defined as your benefit? Who is it? In Boldly Growing, BG's Boldly Growing, another aspect of our club is that they tend to be small business owners and or work for small companies. So we tap into that market more. We give you some real personalized attention. Somebody else might include that in their message. So who benefits from your club? Write that out. Give me 5 or 6 people or 5 or 6 groups of people you think might benefit from your club, because that's the target audience you're going to go after. You're going to market to. And then when you get back to step 7, you're going to say to the group, so now I'm going to pitch you my message, and I'm going to pick one target group that I'm going to speak to. And maybe it's speaking, maybe it's emails, maybe it's something. But whatever it is, you now have a pitch you're going to give to a specific audience. So you've customized it a little bit. And that's if time allows. In the breakout room, you'll share it there first. But this is what you're going to do when we get back to our whole room together. We're going to we're going to hear your perfect pitch together. There is no perfect, don't worry about it. But we're going to hear the next iteration. So questions you might have before we send you off.
How long are we going to be in the breakout room?
That's an excellent question. I think people are going to need, I'm going to say 20 minutes.
Okay. I'll have them automatically close after 20 minutes then.
Perfect. So you all know if you should be about 3 of you in each room. And this is just a pretty quick experience of this.
Yep.
Do you have a write-up of the process you were just describing? Because I'm looking at the questions that are on the form that that James sent out, but I could not follow the process you were describing.
So that's on the screen right now, and James is going to share that.
So you'll be following the one that's screen shared right now. That'll be shared into your breakout rooms.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's more detail.
The handout will be more for after, right?
I mean, you could use it now if you've had a chance to print it out. That's great.
Incorporate that in there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions?
I just took a screenshot of it and put it on in a Word document and sent it to the chat.
Oh, thank you.
That works. Cool.
I clearly need to be in a club that's more technically.
There is such a one.
I'm
trying to remember the name of it.
If only there was a technical club somewhere in District 32.
Club. Oh, you nerd masters. Market masters is what you should be.
But that would be a different niche.
Yeah.
So that's a good title for a club that we should start. Anyway. Are we ready to go?
Ready? Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I will launch the rooms.
Thank you.
Yep.
I need to finish what I was saying to Liz. Do a thing on getting going hacks or morning hacks. How do you get up in the morning? How do you get yourself fired up? How do you how do you make sure your day starts out with a bang? And you could offer that as you could, that's something you could then do as an event that you offer for and to attract people.
All right. Thank you.
Sounds like you're getting a lot of stuff done in there.
We discovered 20 minutes wasn't enough. And
It
there was only
wasn't.
3 of us. Oh my gosh.
In 20 minutes, we covered 2 of us.
I know. So did we.
I can always tell when we always have that 60 seconds to close down automatically and nobody leaves. Like they're still talking.
So I think we really have about 10. Did we want to take a break, first of all? So I want to build this in.
We can either we could do the break now, or we could do it after the report back and the whiteboard discussion session.
Why don't we give people a 5-minute break now, because then
That was a good
if they have anything to write or anything like that.
Awesome.
Thank
Sounds
you,
good.
Eric. All right. So take
Excellent.
5 minutes. My clock, that is 3 minutes past the hour.
Yes.
Hi, Eric. Good to see you. You're on mute.
I am not anymore on mute. Hi, Judy.
Hi. Yeah, I like your background.
Thank you.
Looks like that's where you are too. Is that Turnagain Arms?
No, that is way up in the Brooks Range off the Noatak River. It's from a place I went caribou hunting about 5 years ago.
Oh wow.
Wow.
That's an adventure.
I know it was. It was really good. We enjoyed
awesome.
it. We sure did. And it's probably about 100 miles up the Noatak River, and that flows into Kotzebue Sound, which is across from the village of Kotzebue. And I heard, I don't know if this is true.
You were up at Kotzebue?
No, I'm in Anchorage, but
Okay.
we
You were up at Kotzebue?
Yeah, we were up there.
Yeah.
And
My wife taught middle school up there for a year
oh, really?
in Kotzebue. Yeah,
All right, good.
that's
What
specific
an
spot. Yeah.
That's cool.
adventure.
That's tough work.
It's
It
cool.
is.
Out in the village, living arrangements are sketchy, and
And she
take
didn't have a
while.
car, so she would walk a mile to school when she's teaching it and back, and
Wow.
permafrost and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we moved to Fargo, North Dakota, we're like, I'm already prepared for this now.
My life trained me for this moment.
Yes. Anyway, you saw I had to mention that.
So I heard the Noatak River, which is directly across Kotzebue Sound from there, is the longest river in the world whose banks are undeveloped by humans. It's
Really?
385 miles. And there's no docks, or there's no dams, and there's no irrigation channels or things like that. I haven't truthed it out, but I saw it on YouTube, so it's got to be true.
Gotta be.
It's gotta be.
Oh man, that is awesome.
That's funny. Yeah, sorry I missed the first hour of this.
Oh, glad to have you in here though.
I'm here, and I figure I have a legitimate claim to the recording. So
Yes,
I'll go on
absolutely,
I'll
yes.
catch up on the back.
I'm recording it, and I will trim it up and clean it up and everything, and get it posted and sent out. So
All right, good. Well,
Yeah,
Rosanna and I had a great session. We just worked on hers, and I'm glad we didn't try to do more than that, because we were able to delve in and give it the true attention to detail that
Nice.
something like that warrants.
nice.
And the cadence, and
Mhm.
the rhythm.
You can go really far with this kind of exercise.
Yes. Yeah, you sure
Yeah,
can.
I love doing this kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that is good.
May
So-
I ask, did Rosanna do Stately Speakers, her home club?
I don't know.
Oh, she
No,
didn't mean the
yes,
club.
she did her stately speakers. For home
Okay.
club.
That's my home club too.
Oh,
that
it
works out
is.
great.
So I'll have to compare notes with her. Well,
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
yeah.
We're crazy. We both get the exact same one.
It'll
That
be
would be.
fascinating
That would be
if
miraculous.
we did, because we came up with the idea that maybe we need to change our name.
Oh,
Oh,
We're no longer, you never did have to be a state employee to belong, but we met in a state building.
mm-hmm.
right.
But you could also get stately. I never connected that with like state employment as that title. I always thought of stately speakers as like this elegance and regality and like an emotional connection of like, we are stately people. We have this statuesque influence about us, you know.
Well, if that's the case, yeah, our name could still.
That's from the name though. But then I did that workshop with you guys. So I'm thinking, you know, you guys are really down to earth. So maybe not quite the right connection there. So yeah.
That's 'cause most of them are retired now. They've gone from stately to emeritus status.
Right.
And you know, there's another stately speakers in Washington, D.C.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
I think that's District 20.
Stately speakers in Washington.
They,
Yeah.
they both meet at noon on Thursday. Of course, when it's noon for them, it's 3 p.m. here.
Wow.
I
So-
visited
That's
them
funny.
when we had the convention in Washington, D.C.
Huh?
It was very nice. And they work at the State Department. That's how they.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I think
That is
they
funny.
are mostly State Department employees.
Uh-huh.
You know, there's quite a bit of security to get into
Yeah,
their
I'll bet, I'll
building.
So they would be the evil of the two twins. They'd be the evil. Right.
Oh,
There's
dear.
your doppelganger. Every
Right.
club should
Yeah.
find its doppelganger.
That'd be funny. That'd be funny.
Every club should.
Oh yes.
I don't know where ours would be. Probably somebody in Tierra del Fuego or something, but in the opposite side of the world, where the Arctic terns fly to and they're not up
Yep.
here.
Yep. That would be funny.
Mhm. That sure would. That sure would. Let's see. Are we going to be?
Yes.
Go
Right.
ahead.
Well,
Go
I
ahead.
was just saying, I wish somebody had caught me before I stepped away to say, Mary, if we go until 3 minutes after the hour, that's like a 15-minute break.
Yeah. I was 3 minutes after 10 till.
Yes, hello.
I was like math, and then it was gone. I was like, oh darn it.
Okay, so I'm hoping we've got Liz and Karen and Kyle. I hope they come back before 3 minutes after the hour, because they'll just get into.
Yes.
There's
Liz.
Liz.
There, good,
Yes.
all right, because I do
Good.
want to kind of get started again.
And there's Karen. Yeah.
Karen, oh good, they might be.
There we are. We're back. We're
All
back.
right.
We did our math right.
Thank you. You all, some of you know this, but I've just finished taking care of my 2-year-old and 4-year-old granddaughters for 2 days.
That'll
And
do it.
I don't have any brain left. I mean, I'm like mush. So yeah, sorry about that.
No worries.
I would like to, though, I think we have a couple of minutes and we thought we might have some time for our brainstorming. I would like to hear at least 2 people.
Yes.
A pitch from a couple of people.
Absolutely,
What
absolutely.
they came up with. And let's see if we have, I don't know if Rosanna and Eric, if you've had come up with anything. We have not heard from you tonight. I just wanted to give you a chance if you wanted to share yours.
Mhm.
That's totally up to you. You could pass.
Eric, we got a good one. You want to read it?
All right.
Well, it's yours. You're the one that it's
Yeah,
from
but
your club.
if I can't read this writing, I'm hoping you.
Oh,
can.
I'll do it then. I think it would be fun.
You do
I'd
it.
like to
You
do it. And you know what I'll probably do is I'll use this as a practice, and then I'll just put my club's name
There you go.
and do it
Sure.
later, and then I'll have another one already.
Go
So
for it.
I'll share it
Have
with
at
our
it.
club too.
Brilliant.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'd be happy to read.
Do
one.
it.
Have at it.
Okay, let's go. We are stately speakers. Our members regularly invite others to practice their speaking and presentation skills, while we give them thoughtful and experienced evaluations. Our service-oriented professional individuals enjoy that personal professional vibe. I'll try that second part again. Our service-oriented individuals enjoy sharing the personal and professional vibe.
Oh,
There we go.
professional. I like that. I like that.
Mhm.
Take that last line.
Beautiful. Yeah,
Hey.
very nice. Yeah.
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 That was Rosanna's, because she
All right.
wanted to bring in the culture of the
Mhm.
Yeah.
club.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
that's what it's for.
Mhm.
I honestly would flip and make that last statement first.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
you
it's
could.
I think it's a stronger lead for who you are.
Mhm.
And then you do
Yeah.
that by offering the
Mhm.
Right, offering the give, the benefit.
Yeah,
exactly the gift.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree there.
Uh-huh. Cool.
Yeah.
Very good.
Excellent. All right. So thank you for sharing that. How about somebody else then? I went pretty quickly.
We
We
have
have another one. See, Liz, Kyle. Oh, yeah,
Sandra.
Sandra.
Well, Mary wrote it for me.
Uh-huh.
Imagine, this is for a club that is for all PR people.
Okay.
Imagine learning and applying from experts the current and emerging technologies that you can use to make marketing magic happen.
I love leading with that word imagine. That's a power word. That's a power
It
word.
is.
And it, PR people are very visual as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good example. Good
And the name of your club?
Is promote the possibilities.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna say Market Masters, but that works too.
I looked up PR Masters, and it's already taken by a really good club, I think, in the Pacific time zone as well.
Okay, gotcha.
Excellent. And I didn't write it. I gave Sandra feedback, as we both did, right? Excellent.
You're very
Okay.
kind, Mary.
All right.
Um,
Yeah, Liz or Kyle?
So I'm going to actually attempt to paraphrase Liz's pitch, because we were kind of in the process of rewriting it when the meeting ended. They are Tacoma early birds. And if I remember more or less what I said is like, the pitch should run something like, do you want to start your day out with a bang? Actually, wrong. Do you want to start at least one day a week out with a bang? Come join us and we'll start your day with growth, with laughter, and there was another one, growth, laughter, and something else. Growth, laughter, and caffeine. I'm making it up. You'll start your day off fun, and this will be the most effective day you have all week.
Nice. I love that. There's a lot in there.
How about morning hour instead of day?
Mm-hmm.
At the very end.
And the thing I like is you've got some very powerful emotional calls there from, if I'm a morning person or I want to be effective, or I think both of those to me have a lot of draw. Like I am that. My favorite meeting ever was at 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. I was so well prepared for that. I'm not suggesting that. That was when I was working, FYI. I'm retired now. But I loved it. So yeah, just pull those emotional things. You can see how you can play with all of those, as James was saying, all of those, find out what really taps into something that keeps your club, the glue that's keeping it together. We did this, sorry, just one thing. We did this for Squim. Let's see. Your journey to confidence can begin in SQUIM, which is kind of a play, because what are you going to do with it? SQUIM is geographically, it's very meaningful to people, but it's meaningless if you live in South Korea. So, but it begins in SQUIM, the club.
Right.
So it's a good play. It can be both.
I like that.
I don't know about the bang, begin your day with a bang. That sounds like an old fashioned phrase.
It is.
It is, yeah.
So I think maybe like, your morning hour can pop or something other than bang.
Yeah, I can see that. Good catch. You want it to use the nomenclature for your target audience. Like if you're dealing with people who are, people who like reading old comic books or are older themselves, they might like that starting off with the bang. If they're a lot of newer people who don't read comic books, they might not even know what you're talking about. So yeah, that's a really good point to bring out those idioms. Very cool. Yeah.
So here's can I do a little wrap up here? Because I know we need to get going here. So one of the things that you might have noticed throughout this, you really do need to know your audience. You could do your initial pitch, but then figure out who it is you're really trying to pitch to. And then you craft it with them in mind. Do the benefits and values first, not the features. Every club has, in fact, if you're targeting a new audience, don't get geeky and use Toastmasters terms. Nothing about all-counter grammarian, general evaluator, Toastmaster. Don't use those terms.
Yeah.
Use terms that people can relate to outside of Toastmasters. So that's why you use feedback, not evaluation. So anyway, keep it brief, practice it. And what I loved about the stories tonight was if you're going to use say I'm a vice president membership and I want every member of my club to use it, I give them this message. This is the basic one. Add your little story to it. This is where I learned how something bang happened with me. So that is it for me.
Awesome.
James, I'm turning it back to you.
All right, and now we have one final bit of interaction because we want to make this practical. We have this piece that defines who we are, our culture, our brand, but how do we manifest that? And there's multiple meanings to that. I also use the word embody this because we have an idea of who we want to be, but how do we express that effectively and consistently in our marketing efforts? And how do we make sure that we stay that way internally? How do we shape our culture to define and stay that way, to really gel it so we're expressing it in our actions, in how we talk, our words, and even the aesthetics of how we express ourselves in like our branding materials, our marketing materials, what kinds of images we use for our cover images on Eventbrite and Facebook, and what kinds of stuff do we share on Instagram, and all these different, the overall branding image that we're communicating all of this with. How do we tie that to this culture that we just defined for ourselves? So we're going to do a brainstorming session here using the whiteboard. Okay, so this is going to be exciting and interesting, because I was going to use a better whiteboard system, but I am using the District 32 account and not my personal account, so I don't have that app connected on this one. So we're using the native Zoom app here. So Zoom and share here. All right, so let me grab text here, and we're going to have 3 comments. We're going to have words. We're going to have aesthetic, or art is another way you can look at it. And we're going to have, I'm going to say actions, but what I really mean, I'll put it in here, co-actions, as a reason, as a term, word I more or less coined myself in my research into this kind of thing. So these are the 3 fundamental components of culture, the 3 fundamental ways that culture is shaped and defined throughout history. This is a millennia old thing. This is how ritual works, actually. What we say, what we do, and how we decorate it, basically. And so we're going to brainstorm different ideas, different things that are connected in these different categories. I'm going to create a line there to kind of block this off, and we're going to start creating context and text. So put it in chat or holler it out. Ooh, don't want that big. Holler it out and let me know, and I will put them onto this as we go. But I want, what's an idea of how to take a piece of culture, maybe something specific you've heard today, or just a general idea, and a way that you could connect them as a dot. So we can change how we do our meetings in this particular way as an action that we're doing together, a co-action that will reinforce that culture. So people coming in a meeting, oh, we're doing it this way, or a branding idea or something like that.
The club president uses the evergreen message, or uses that standard message at the beginning when they describe the club mission. Just the mission followed by, or one or the other, just.
Okay, so president leads with the club mission.
With club mission and pitch.
Yes, perfect. That'll go in the words category, obviously. So we're reinforcing what we're talking about.
I want to mention one of the most desirable qualities for a club is laughter and camaraderie. And yet, how do you create an environment that encourages laughter and camaraderie? There are some simple things you can do. Add a joke master.
Yes. Okay.
And one of the other things you can do is encourage your Toastmasters to choose humorous themes.
Okay. I'm gonna get that in co-action category that fits in with Toastmasters. Now notice I'm doing these explicitly in context of a humorous culture that we're developing, but this can be changed. So if you have like a culture that is serious and solemn, you would encourage your Toastmasters not to choose humorous themes. For example, you would decide not to have a joke master role. You would have a Robert's rule of the day, as it said, which would be helpful in the meaning that is built around that. That would be a tremendously helpful thing to do in that context. So these can be tweaked to apply in the particular context. In fact, I actually kind of like that. Yeah. Like that. Anyway.
Well, to add to that, James, you could be flexible. When I first joined a club that was called Invocation, Joke, or Toast. So you could vary your themes. You could, and it was fun. Sometimes
as long as
invitation that was serious,
yes.
Sometimes a joke, and sometimes a toast or something.
Yes. Establish flexibility as a value by having options in how each meeting is run. There's more flexibility there. Yeah. Yep. All right. What are some other ways you can do the word? So obviously, I'm gonna put one over here real quick. That's easy. The name of the club is a part of the words category here, like Mary was just talking about. Also, places to communicate this kind of stuff, having signatures in emails that reemphasize these kinds of things.
Agendas.
Say it again.
Agendas.
Yes, and the closing paragraphs on Eventbrite and Facebook events. As values on agendas. There's all these places we can put words in Toastmasters.
If you use Meetup or anything that allows you to have some descriptive words, pick out your real 2 or 3 tag
keywords, I was thinking of a tagline.
Tagline.
Yep, and
You know, have
taglines.
a formal tagline.
Yep. Okay. Aesthetics. So we are a little bit limited here because there's a Toastmasters branding guidelines and so on. But within that, right, choosing certain kinds of things. So for example, Kyle, go ahead.
Seeing as we are talking Toastmasters clubs, one of my old friends, I think the only person, maybe Judy or Mary know him, Ralph Pearson over in D2. He would beat us about the head and shoulders if we weren't wearing a suit, if we weren't wearing a tie, if we weren't wearing our name badge or our Toastmaster badge. You know.
Yep.
Now that's in
Did
a
all the
lot
men
of
have
cases.
to wear pantyhose, or was it just the women?
Well, I think Ralph has finally figured out that this is antiquated, but you know, not too many years ago, he was reminding me that I'd forgotten to bring my name badge.
Having those expectations, reminding each other.
My home club has a tradition at the end of the meeting, just before good of the order, we ask who's wearing their Toastmaster pin. And we started that before we all met online, calling it sneaky PR, because if the day of your meeting you wore your pin, someone might ask you and you could tell them about Toastmasters.
Right.
It is nice to do. The other thing it does, like for instance, I recently got a pin in the mail for achieving level 5 in a pass. And one of my fellow Toastmasters got a Triple Crown pin. She didn't even know about Triple Crown, but she got that. So it's fun. It's a fun aesthetic.
Yes, I just put that on there, Drew, because you reminded me. Putting what specific awards and accomplishments are displayed and when. So for example, one thing that we started doing a while back for a bit there for Harbor Club is that we didn't just celebrate wins in Toastmasters. People came in and said, hey, I got a certificate at work that I've been working towards, not Toastmasters related at all. And we like, great. And we put it on our board of awards. Just like all the Toastmasters ribbons and all that kind of stuff, because we were supporting that community growth. That was one of our values. And so we did stuff like that. So the contrast, tie, suit, coat, name badges, or silly hats and costume parties. There's this, which one are you going to be doing more frequently? These shape your culture and how you do things. When you have an open house, do you have Toastmasters Jeopardy, or like we did down there one time? Kyle, I think you were there once, with a potluck, right? Or do you go out to a really nice catered dinner with the dining tables and wine? What kind of food do you have at your dinners? And do you use mustache filters on Zoom?
And just being mindful of time, it's now 15 minutes past the hour, and I think we've gone into
Thank you, Mary. I appreciate
Judy
that.
with her silly hat, or her very continental hat.
Yes. All right. So I did want to look at this here, and I'm going to save this. Save it as a ping. It'll be in my folder here. I'm going to stop the share. Okay. So that is a brief example of ways that you can look in these three categories to make practical this kind of abstract emotional thing that we've been talking about as an exercise that you can do back with your own clubs and brainstorm. How do we change how we do things to make this work? All right, so that is our meeting. I appreciate all of you coming here. I'm going to turn this over to Judy and or Rosanna for the general evaluation portion to wrap this up.
Thank you. And how much time do we have?
I would suggest we have 10 minutes for wrapping up, getting a timer report, and then wrapping up the evaluations and such.
Good. Well, Rosanna, does this work for you? If Kyle gives me a green at 7, I can stop at 7 and you can add what you thought I missed. Or do you want me to do the whole thing?
I was gonna ask you if I can have a pass and rely on you to do the whole
Oh,
thing.
Sure, okay. I
Understandable.
will.
Thank you.
And yes, when Kyle put on his mustache, I had to put on my hat. It was a good meeting, sound advice. I know that we prepared the meeting in advance. I don't know how well we advertised it in advance. One place where we could do better, of course, is attendance. Get more people to attend. And last year we did get bigger attendances, so we may go back and revisit what we did last year and make sure we're doing it again this year, or do other things to bring more people in. We did plan it in advance though, and we began the meeting in advance on time. We began on time. This evaluation, by the way, will include the speech evaluation. It's what James called a super evaluation. James, you did a good job of describing the chronology of the meeting, just what we were going to do. We didn't have a timer. Kyle stepped in and filled that role. In your speech, James, you engaged me right away, and I think it was because of your vocal variety and your gestures. Your enthusiasm just clearly showed. You did a good job. The one thing you might want to improve on is minimize the use of and. It's a group of people, amazing people, and they meet. It's a group of amazing people, they meet. And in particular, when you said, and I asked her, what community are you trying to draw? And she said, I said, yeah, what community are you trying to draw? She said. The other place is your laughter sometimes. This is a problem. And I know you laugh to relax, but sometimes it's a little distracting. Otherwise, very good. The table topics, that was very good first question, and the way you commented on everyone was good. The second question was also very good about what have we ever said we don't belong in this place? And I thought our answers showed that we really are emotional people. They proved your point. Liz gets a less than favorable evaluation, and she goes speeding down the road in a school zone. I don't hear people say, sorry, you're sick, Judy, and I say, forget it, you guys, I'm not speaking to you again. So we do have strong emotional reactions to what's happening around us. Mary, you also engaged me right away, and I think it's because of your vocal variety and your leaning in. It's got me very interested in what you were saying from the very beginning. And I particularly like your expression when you said the club said, we want fresh blood, or like a group of mosquitoes. And yeah, basically very good explanation of the program that you were going to conduct. And you gave us a chance to ask questions before we went into the breakout rooms. And what we were to do in the breakout rooms and how long we had was explained well. The one thing that could have done better there is if perhaps we had an announcement, you have 2 minutes left, 1 minute left. I know suddenly I was looking at the screen and seeing, I think it was a few seconds left by then. The brainstorming was good. And Rosanna, I hope you wrote down what we came up with for stately speakers, because that's also my home club. Good. And the wrap up. I particularly like your points in the wrap up, Mary. State the benefits and values first, the terms, keep it brief, and then add your own story. And the brainstorming by Joan is very good. Are we able to copy that whiteboard, James?
I saved it as a ping and it will be shared afterwards.
Oh, good. Excellent. So basically, very good meeting. And as I say, let's work on advertising them more so we get even more people. Thank you. Back to you, Jane.
Thank you so much, Judy. I think we have time. Kyle, would you mind giving a brief timing report of how things went there?
Give me a moment and I'll paste it into the chat for you.
Awesome. Well, thanks. That works. I will also jump in here. Oop, nope, almost on it. It keeps running away from me, my mouse. There it is. I just put the ping for the whiteboard save in the chat there for you guys.
The timers report is in the chat.
Awesome. Many thanks, Kyle. All righty. Most excellent. All right. Thank you guys again so much for attending and for jumping in and participating and engaging in the discussion. We had a lot of fun, and I think it was all, I found the insights and the stories that you shared valuable and insightful. And I hope that the exercise results that came from the exercise are going to be useful for you and your clubs and beyond Toastmasters as well. I look forward to chatting with you all more and being able to learn from you more in future meetings. I would love to hang out with you a bit after the end, chat and answer questions. I won't be able to hang out for too long because I am 2 hours ahead of everybody else. I have to go to bed eventually. But I would like to chat with y'all and get to know you better. We have some newer people here who haven't visited as frequently before, which I'm really excited about. It'll be good to see you and talk with you. I appreciate Mary's help in coordinating this meeting. We had some plans and we were putting things together, and then we had a bunch of last minute changes that had to happen. And so we kind of scrambled to readjust and fix things together kind of last minute. So this is a little bit more cobbled together than usual for our meetings, but we made it work. We pulled it through, and we had a lot of fun. And I think we learned a lot along the way. So thank you so much. I will hopefully see you guys again next month. And I will officially adjourn our meeting. I'm wondering, I know. For Nerdmasters, I use my sword. For sound advice, I'm looking, I don't have a spoon here. I'll just do there we go for a gavel close. A bit more apropos. Thank you guys so much.